from the Thursday, August 6, 2026 issue of the River Rock Times. We read from the River Rock Times on Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. Your reader has been Julian Wong. Thank you for listening.
Good morning. Welcome to another broadcast day of the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, a private not-for-profit organization. As always, please stay with us. Our Reading the Buffalo News is coming up in just a second.
The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or even impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. If you would like more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. Your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for today. That's Tuesday, August 11th. Your readers today are Lori and
Lita.
Let's talk about the weather. It's August and it's lovely. It's less humid today with sunny spells and a high of 81. It will be partly cloudy tonight with a low of 62. That's good sleeping weather for me. Partly sunny tomorrow with a shower in spots. High of 81 again. Thursday, partial sunshine with a thunderstorm and a high of 80. Friday will be mostly sunny with a high of 75, but Saturday's clouds and sun with a high of 78. If we're not warm enough for you, go to Lake Havasu City in Arizona, 106. And if you want to be cold, go 35 degrees in Stanley, Idaho. The pollen says yesterday was moderate and today was moderate, but I can tell you from personal experience, I've started to sneeze again. The sun sets at 8:24 p.m. tonight, and the lakes, Ontario, 70 degrees, the Niagara River, 74 degrees, and Erie tops it off with 75. On to you.
Wow, isn't the fair starting this weekend too?
Yes, it starts actually, first day is Wednesday.
So it'll be nice weather then the weekend.
Nice weather.
Okay, and on the front page we have an article. There's a program that's been helping kids with autism blossom. When Jacob Cunningham started kindergarten, he hated going to school. Jacob had run out of the classroom, shouted, hit, and kicked. A child with autism, he struggled to regulate his emotions and communicate with his peers. 3 years after being involved in the Institute for Autism Research, Jacob, who now is 10 years old, told his father, Adam Cunningham, that this year that he was sad school was ending. Jacob talked about his friends along with what they liked and did. He's constantly growing, Cunningham said. He's constantly making himself available to the outside world to be able to give all the gifts that I know he intrinsically has. A $450,000 grant awarded by the Children's Guild Foundation will help the IAR reach more families like the Cunninghams. With the grant's assistance, its programs, which are dedicated to teaching social skills to 7 to 12-year-old children with autism and no intellectual disabilities, has been rehomed at the University at Buffalo's South Campus after 23 years at Canisius. The Institute's 5-week Summer Max program had its first run at UB from the 29th of June through 31st of July, and its after-school Max Out program will start in the upcoming school year. If coming to UB isn't an option, the child can learn at their school under the School Max program, where the IAR staff works with their paraprofessionals to incorporate the lessons into the existing curriculum. The IAR will also access a larger pool of mental health medical providers and researchers through its integration into the Children's Guild Foundation Autism Spectrum Disorder Center at the Golisano Children's Hospital of Buffalo. With this network that UB will provide us, we can get more people to understand things that we have shown to be very valid and effective to be used to maximize the performance of more autistic kids, said co-founder Marcus Tomir. The grant came almost organically, co-founder Christopher Lopata said. Canisius University informed Tomir and Lopata that it could no longer fund the IAR's programs after the 25-26 year. Word spread in the community, and the Children's Guild Foundation intervened. All of a sudden, it was a lot of folks that built its own momentum, he said. It wasn't intentional, but we're grateful and humbled. Cunningham says the program outgrew where it was. I don't think it's that. This thing that needed to be rescued, Cunningham said. It was wonderful on its own. It just outgrew Canisius and landed at the University at Buffalo so it can continue to blossom. When Maxwell Donnelly was diagnosed with autism at 2.5 years old, his mother Melissa hoped to enroll him in the Summer Max program when he turned 7. A special ed teacher, she had already heard about the program and its success from her community. While Maxwell did not go to Summer Max when he turned 7 due to a different AIR program being piloted at the time, he participated in the School Max program until the next summer. Maxwell, who is now 9 and finished with his second run at Summer Max this year, has become more open. He started to elaborate more on what he did during his day, took a greater interest in others, and identified sarcasm, figurative language that people with autism often struggle to understand. All of these social rules and cues that come innate or feel like they come innate to a lot of neurotypical people, they don't to children with autism, Donnelly said. What the program does is explicitly teaching them these skills, making them aware of these skills, explaining to them why they're important. Each day at Summer Max is split into 5 75-minute blocks of instruction and practice. Children are taught a social skill and go on to model it in groups. Full-time staff members or student volunteers oversee the program, and each one must undergo intensive training, practice simulations, and pass a final with 100% before entering the classroom. It's challenging but fun, Tomir said. You're doing things that make a difference, but you're learning and becoming a better clinician or researcher in the process. Summer Max's tuition is $2,500 a year, which goes towards staff salaries, overhead costs, and financial aid for families that cannot afford the full price. If a kid is not coming, it will never be because of tuition. Cunningham says Jacob absolutely flourishes at Summer Max. They struggle and they're practicing together and they're growing together, said Cunningham. At the same time, they're developing friendships. The IAR is not here to cure autism, Tomir said. Kids with autism are not damaged, Tomir said. We work with kids that want to have friends but have significant difficulty in knowing what to do in social interactions. Donnelly says that learning these skills will help children with autism navigate a world that can be unkind, but the world needs to change too. I would never change Max, Donnelly said. I would change the world for him.
And as many of us has heard, Highmark's debut wasn't completely free from issues. Some gave low marks for obstructed views, tech, and design details. Happy faces were plentiful throughout the new Highmark Stadium on Saturday as fans got into the $2.2 billion stadium for the first time and were in awe at what they saw. That doesn't mean everyone's experience was equally filled with enthusiasm, however, as some fans found and then sat in their seats for the return of the blue and red practice. Their excitement turned to disappointment because of an obstructed view to the field. Many of the complaints about the new stadium on social media centered on obstructed views in the 400 level, and those were from fans situated in front of staircases leading up and down to the 300 level concourse. Silver wired railings made seeing the field a little difficult on the 400 level and in some other spots that are around the stadium. Other fans said the canopy on the east end of the stadium did not hold up as well to the heavy rain that came around mid-practice. Traffic was also an issue for some fans who said patterns and flows around some of the lots were not as smooth as they had expected, and that created log jams and delays. Other fans took issue with what to them was the underwhelming size of the team's 2 video boards on each side of the new stadium. And the sound system was echoing a bit in the building, and fans couldn't hear as well in certain areas of the stadium. The Bills had more than 50,000 people attend Saturday's event, a major test for the first major event at the stadium, and much of the feedback was positive. The team said it is systematically going through and prioritizing all of the feedback. It's not just an external conversation, it's an internal conversation, said Pete Gelly, president of business operations for the Bills. We're talking to operations and the football team and working through every aspect of the building and trying to exercise some patience and then be as deliberate as we can so that ultimately when we open for our regular season home opener, it is what everyone expects. And one thing they did find is that the sound system will be better. The sound system was not representative of what people will experience during a game. Speakers on the field that the team typically uses during a practice to play music interfered with the ability of fans to clearly make out what was coming out of the stadium speakers. The sound was echoing a bit in the building, and fans couldn't hear as well. The system was essentially in sound competition with the speakers from the field. We know we have one of the best sound systems now in the league, and we're really looking forward to people seeing what it can truly do. Once we get this thing rolling and are tuned up for a game, we are confident it's going to be as good as it was advertised.
Yes, I believe that's true too. And the justices face plea to block new rules on mail-in ballots. Less than 90 days out from the midterms, election officials are pleading with the Supreme Court to block the Trump administration from making changes that would allow the U.S. Postal Service to decide who gets mail-in ballots. And after Postal Service changes earlier this year that affect how quickly mail is postmarked, some states are urging voters to be cautious when putting ballots in the mail at all. Many people expect that their ballots will be postmarked the same day they placed them in their mailboxes. That is no longer guaranteed under the new rule. We, and me personally as a messaging issue, encourage people to use our ballot drop boxes rather than the mail system, just to avoid any potential delays or errors, or frankly, at this stage, attempts to interfere by the federal government, said Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown. Our ballots are locally controlled and operated and don't involve the federal government. We generally encourage that at the best way to get people's votes in. President Trump had earlier issued an executive order in March, and the move was part of his second-term efforts to extend more federal authority over how states run elections and the postmarking changes. But the Postal Service at the center of the fight over who will control the House and Senate for the final 2 years of Trump's presidency. Trump, who has voted for by mail himself, has zeroed in on absentee ballots, which he says, without proof, are often fraudulent. The Department of Justice has argued that a lower court acted too soon in blocking the executive order because the Postal Service has not finished writing the rules that would put it in place. Because of pending litigation, we have no response to offer on any questions related to the executive order or the proposed rule, a Postal Service spokesperson said. The entire Trump administration will continue lawfully enacting the agenda President Trump was elected to implement, which includes the safety and security of American elections, White House spokesperson Laura Biss said. This campaign pledge from the president is why millions of Americans sent him back to the White House. But there are legal challenges. After lower courts blocked the order, the Trump administration asked the Supreme Court on the 27th of July to allow federal agencies to implement two parts of his executive order that directed the USPS to create mail-in ballot rules and the DHS to compile a national database of eligible voters. Trump filed the emergency appeal after lower courts blocked the administration from creating a federal list of eligible voters and limiting delivery of mail ballots only to people on that list in nearly half the states for the midterm elections. The group of states that brought the lawsuit told the Supreme Court on the 3rd of August there would be extraordinary consequences if the Trump administration is allowed to move forward with an overhaul of mail-in voting rules so close to the election. On the 5th of July, a bipartisan group of more than 100 elected officials filed a friend of the court brief to explain the administrative challenges if the executive order moves forward. Preparations are long underway, they said, and there would not be a sufficient time to test the new procedures, train election staff, and educate voters about the changes. Should this court approve the request stay, thereby allowing the executive order to take effect within the plaintiff state's fewer than 100 days before a major federal election, where well over 100 million voters are likely to cast ballots, the results will be chaos. The Supreme Court could issue a decision any day. Regardless of what the justices decide, states have been working to educate voters about submitting ballots by mail earlier or returning them in drop boxes all year. That includes direct appeals like social media outreach, media engagement, radio ads, and mailers, according to the multiple state election offices.
And in my view, John...
What time is it?
Pardon?
What time is it?
What time is it? I'm sorry. It's 9:15, and you are listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. I apologize.
Don't apologize. We all do it.
All right. In my view, John Perodato is bothered by one of film director Christopher Nolan's central omissions. A Bronze Age king returns home from war, 20 years later, considered by all long dead. In disguise, he finds his home full of arrogant young men, eating up his estate's reserves, threatening to murder his son, and harrying his wife to marry one of them. He strings a bow no one else can handle, and with the help of his son and a handful of loyal servants, pays out a brutal form of justice, slaughtering the intruders to a man. He appears before the wife, who has not seen him in 20 years. "I do not know who you are," she says, for to her he seems to be a butcher, turning her house into an abattoir, nothing like the gentle person she once knew, the one she watched depart unwillingly for war. But hers is a house that respects homeless wanderers, even this one. She is bound to grant him a night's rest before dismissing him in the morning. Turning away from him, she directs a maidservant to a nearby bedroom. Have the bed removed from there and brought into the courtyard for this stranger. The stranger rails on her and shouts, "You've got to be joking," and a cruel joke it is. "What you've ordered can't possibly be done. I built that bed with my own 2 hands, so that one of its posts is the trunk of a living olive tree growing up in the middle of the house. It is a secret, betokening an intimate bond known only to me and to my wife and to one trusted servant. Unless someone has betrayed that secret and destroyed that bond along with the work of my hands, that bed will not be moved." He has passed her test. The spell of estrangement is broken. They melt into one another's arms. But the story does not end there, where romantics would have it end, with the lovers united. There's more, and it is harsh. The long-awaited husband must leave again on a mission whose length and outcome are uncertain. In his travels, he has offended the sea god Poseidon. In expiation, he must journey inland until he finds a people who have no knowledge of the sea or ships or salted food, and who mistake the oar he must carry on his shoulder for a winnowing fan. Only then, after sacrifices to the offended god, can he return home again. How that journey ends, we never find out. That is how Homer's poem ends, without an ending, leaving us hanging between the consoling hopefulness of a folk tale and the unwelcome truth of tragedy. There are further complications, for this is a complicated narrative by a gifted craftsman about a complicated man. We learn of the expiatory inland journey not from the poem's narrator, but asserted by Odysseus himself from inside the story. And the Odyssey represents him constantly as a master rhetorician, an artful tactician with words. Much of what he says is masterful fiction, at times open lies. It is replete with embellishments, even when credibly true. Now for the big question. Do any of these concluding events turn up at the end of Christopher Nolan's recent much-touted film, The Odyssey? No, none of them. That is an essential difference from Homer. Nolan's film fails many times in fidelity to Homer's original, but to so alter a narrative's conclusion is to compromise its essence. Nolan's Odyssey is impressive filmmaking, no question about it. But Homer, it ain't.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and speaking of changing things, the editorial cartoon is a picture of Todd Blanche in he's wearing a top hat and a black suit, and behind him you can see a casket on wheels, and in his hand he's holding a yardstick, and the yardstick is being held up against the Lady Liberty, and he's measuring her for the casket. And the caption is "The Rule of Law." And Lord, I hope that's not true. And over for the paper's editorial, trouble at Lakeview. Serious allegations of abuse at Lakeview Shock Incarceration Correction Facility demand an investigation independent of the agency that runs the prison. As reported by the News' Robert Gavin, inmates at Lakeview have claimed that staff subjected them to physical and sexual abuse, racism, and forms of torture. Inmates report experiencing humiliation, abuse, and fear, as well as a lack of adequate medical and dental care, according to a report issued on the 3rd of August by the Correctional Association of New York. Under state law, the association, or CANY, or CANY, oversees the conditions of New York prisons and issues reports on findings. Lakeview, the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision's westernmost facility, offers a boot camp style shock program that enables inmates who graduate from it to be released in 6 months. The facility in the village of Brockton offers a 90-day drug treatment program and a program for male inmates transitioning from restrictive housing. The allegations of disrespectful, humiliating, and dangerous behavior by staff run counter to descriptions, mostly from staff, or mentorship relationships offering much-needed role modeling. Inmates complain of excessive physical abuse and untreated medical conditions. 21 of 23 inmates said they saw or experienced verbal, physical, or sexual abuse by staff. Department of Corrections officials call the accusations unsubstantiated and say its investigation found no reports or observations of abuse. They offered a sharply different account, saying correction officers who serve as drill instructors in the shock program are viewed as father figures by participating and describing the environment as therapeutic. How therapeutic can alleged verbal and physical abuse be? The report cited inmates who said corrections staffers mocked a person with disabilities. Correctional Association staffers said they witnessed Department of Corrections staffers force several inmates facing discipline to wear Burger King crowns to suggest they wanted it their way. Inmates claimed that Lakeview staff, as a form of punishment, forced some prisoners to eat lunch while kneeling by trash cans and to stand all day and drink water while refusing bathroom breaks. Candy's visit to Lakeview came during a tumultuous period, about a month after the end of the 22-day unsanctioned correction officer strike. Transfers had been suspended, the incarcerated population had fallen, and Governor Kathy Hochul had fired 113 Lakeview officers for participating in the strike. The disruption makes an independent assessment of conditions at the facility even more important. Canny's allegations are too serious to be ignored, particularly because its representatives say they personally witnessed at least one humiliating practice. The Department of Corrections has produced a meaningful rebuttal, pointing to its own evidence that contradicts Canny's findings. Precisely because the two accounts are so irreconcilable, and because DOCCS investigated allegations involving its own workforce, the matter demands review by the Inspector General, an independent outside entity. A spokesperson for the Inspector General's office said no priority is greater for Inspector General Lucy Lang's office than ensuring that inmates are treated humanely and housed in conditions free of abuse, corruption, and crime. If any of the allegations are substantiated, that mission is seriously undermined. An independent investigation will help fill out the narrative and determine remediation if called for.
And in another voice, Lake Mariner Project is disrupting Somerset. And this is by James Hoffman. The recent fire in Somerset at the Lake Mariner Data Center adds more concerns to those already surrounding the multi-billion-dollar TerraWolf artificial intelligence project going on at the site of the former coal-fired power plant. For the last year, residents of Somerset and the surrounding municipalities have endured heavy truck traffic, road destruction, excessive speeding, air pollution, noise violations, and woodland and green space destruction. In addition, a wave of workers, 2 to 3 times the population of the village of Barker, come and go every day, adding further trauma to a once quiet community. Protections once in place to minimize the effect of the coal-fired installation have been brushed aside. The status of the toxic secure landfills on the site, a legacy of previous coal-fired operations, is unknown. Contact with local officials, the New York State Public Service Commission, and the New York Department of Environmental Conservation have resulted in nothing but finger-pointing. Now the residents of Somerset are faced with hazardous chemical fires. Why are hazardous chemicals being stored on site in the first place? Members of the Barker Fire Department were not prepared for what they faced. Lack of an adequate water supply was only one of the problems. A full explanation of what occurred and what the fixes are is yet to be revealed. A proposed emergency response plan, a work in progress, must recognize the huge quantity of electronic equipment being installed at the expanded facility and the fire threat. Additional training and purchase of firefighting equipment should be funded by Tara Wolf. The project is an example of how a community can quickly be misled and overrun by a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Our town boards were heavily pressured to approve the project, and economic issues above else won the day. Governor Kathy Hochul's one-year moratorium on construction of data centers should require discipline and control of current and future AI projects. Environmental impact studies must be conducted, and the community impact analysis is made. A means to keep the public involved and informed must be included. More than jobs and the economy are at stake. Public safety and environmental issues must be at the forefront.
Mm-hmm. And from the Bloomberg, from David Drucker, working class vibes alone will not defeat Collins in Maine. Let's give credit where it's due to Democrats hoping to unseat Republican Senator Susan Collins in Maine. Troy Jackson is certainly an improvement over Graham Plattner. As a former longtime state legislator, his background has been vetted and he doesn't appear burdened by personal scandal or a Nazi tattoo. But Democrats, progressive and otherwise, might still be miscalculating. They imagine their new nominee to be the populist Pied Piper of coveted working class voters. In reality, Maine's Democratic power brokers are repeating the same mistake with Jackson as the out-of-state consultants made with Plattner, who was plucked from obscurity before dropping out of the general election last month following multiple accusations of sexual misconduct. The party prioritized superficial qualities it imagines appeal to blue-collar voters over the sort of grounded substance that does. Jackson, who's 58, was raised in northern Maine's Aroostook County, hails from a line of loggers and was a logger himself. He was also an effective union organizer before spending 2 decades in the state legislature and is fond of work shirts and baseball caps. But a quick check of his campaign website reveals a decidedly left-wing agenda that working-class voters tend to view suspiciously: support for socialized medicine, abolition of immigration and custom enforcement, and opposing to U.S. military aid for Israel. Those positions could complicate Jackson's bid to oust Collins in a state more politically diverse and complicated than its more than 3-decade streaks of voting Democrats in presidential elections suggest. Maine is not Manhattan, Professor Mark Brewer, chair of the University of Maine's Political Science Department, told me. He explained that Jackson, who sought the Democratic nomination for governor but finished third, will have trouble this fall if his entreaties to center-right voters are limited to performative and stylistic efforts. He's got the pedigree, they'll serve him well, but even that's not going to be enough. That's not to say Collins, who's 73 and in her 5th term, isn't vulnerable. Jackson supporters wave signs with "Retire Susan" plastered on them. The midterm elections are shaped up to be a rebuke of President Trump. The data shows that Democratic voters are more energized to pull the lever in November than Republicans, and the Pine Tree State has opted for Team Blue in the 3 most recent White House contests by a healthy average margin of 6.3 percentage points. Jackson even led Collins 49 to 46% in a survey fielded in mid-July, although recent public opinion polling is sparse. But politically, Maine is not that simple, which is plain to see outside of Portland and other affluent coastal enclaves. Head west and north, and the state is rugged, rural, and dotted with farms, mills, single-stop light villages, and Trump signs. Maine's 2 congressional districts are illustrative. The first district is cobalt blue, backing then Vice President Kamala Harris over Trump in 24 by roughly 22 points. But the other, the second district, is Republican-leaning and supported the 45th and 47th president by approximately 10 points, 3 times. Jackson has to offer those voters more than a plaid shirt, work boots, and calloused hands to win them over. The former state senator ought to follow the example of fellow Maine Democrat and outgoing U.S. Representative Jerry Golden, a Marine veteran who looks every bit the part that Democratic insiders and strategists sought to project with Plattner and now Jackson, but he has the policy chops to lend credibility to the everyman image they believe will deliver victory over Collins. The retiring 2nd District Congressman ousted a Republican incumbent in 2018, the president's first midterm elections. He surfed the blue wave that year and built his win on centrist appeals to the political right that included fervent support by border security, among other conservative sweeteners. Golden's agenda pointedly did not include lefty policy pleasers like Medicare for all. Even still, he won only narrowly, with a boost from Maine's ranking choice voting system. Collins, meanwhile, is a formidable campaigner whose Democrats have repeatedly and miserably failed to defeat despite favorable political atmospherics, and she is adept at being pragmatic when it counts. Collins eschews ideological warfare, uses her Senate seniority to bring home federal tax dollars, and maintains her standing with the kinds of left-leaning voters who proliferate across the 1st District by crossing her party and Trump on key issues. Her latest entreaty is opposing the confirmation of Todd Blanche to permanently serve as U.S. Attorney General. The senator also voted against Trump's signature One Big Beautiful Bill Act and has supported abortion rights throughout her career. If Collins had retired, and given that Trump isn't unpopular in Maine as he is elsewhere, Jackson might have bested a generic Republican clearly aligned with the president. He would have flipped this state seat, armed with nothing more than a progressive agenda and working class vibes. But Collins isn't that, and she isn't calling it quits. So Jackson, who opposed abortion rights and same-sex marriage when he entered politics years ago, but has since evolved, might do well to spend some time back in his native Aroostook County, where Trump defeated Harris by more than 26 points. He might figure out how to give his old neighbors reasons to vote for him this November that are more than just skin deep.
And you're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time? 32 minutes after the hour. And in another opinion piece, Susan Estrich says Paul's perspective of Fauci wasn't necessary. Dr. Anthony Fauci is an American hero. He spent his entire life in public service. He took on impossible challenges and impossible people. He saved millions of lives around the world. And what does he get for it? A comfortable, well-earned retirement to spend as he pleases with family, friends, and colleagues? No. He is consigned to lawyers' conference rooms preparing to defend himself from a deranged man and his cowardly compatriots. What can you say about Senator Rand Paul? He believes what he chooses to believe. Every expert has told him that the research Fauci's agency funded in Wuhan could not have caused the lab leak, which Paul sees as the cause of the pandemic. In Paul's book, Fauci caused the pandemic and should be in prison for it, and he is obsessed with it. He has cross-examined Fauci in Senate hearings. He has called for his prosecution and imprisonment. That's why the preemptive pardon by President Joe Biden. And now Paul has the audacity to argue that because Fauci received that pardon, he is not entitled to invoke the Fifth Amendment. If Paul and the cowardly lions on his committee wanted to get full answers from Fauci for the umpteenth time, then all they had to do was grant him immunity from prosecution for his answers. But as it is, the pardon doesn't cover activities after the date of its issuance. Thus, It could certainly be argued, and Paul himself suggested this before the hearing, that it would not apply to testimony given at the hearing. Were Fauci to say something that in the mind of some prosecutor somewhere could be seen as inconsistent with something he said before, you could have a perjury indictment. The only safe thing is to say nothing at all. The usual procedure when a Senate committee votes for contempt is to refer the issue to the full Senate and only seek enforcement of the contempt citation from the Justice Department if there is a Senate vote confirming it. Paul knows there are not 60 votes in the Senate to refer Fauci for prosecution by the Justice Department, so he and J.D. Vance did it their way. As chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, Paul authored the contempt resolution and pushed it through on a party line vote. Then Vance, acting in his constitutional role as president of the Senate, officially certifies the report and directs it to the U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro. Lest anything about this stunt be lost in transit, Paul hand-delivered the referral file to the Department of Justice. Fauci was right to refuse to participate in a kangaroo court. His blanket invocation is not the norm, but there was nothing normal about this hearing. The questions about the origin of COVID have already been asked and answered by Fauci. The Fifth Amendment is the only answer to that game of gotcha. Much has been written about the imperial power of this president. What about the imperial power of one Senate committee and, in truth, Rand Paul? He set about to humiliate and try to destroy an honorable man, and no one even tried to stop him. Where were his colleagues who know better? Following like sheep, avoiding the rancor of the crazies. Todd Blanche and Pirro may have trouble on this one. They should. Grand jurors are also bound to uphold the conviction. And should it get that far, I predict the case will get thrown out. But why should an American hero be forced to spend his 80s in this way?
Yeah, I agree with that. And so now, as part of our newspaper reading, we now present the day's death listings. If you need further information on any of these names, you can call us at 716-821-5555. Alfred J. Jakubowski, Eileen M. O'Neill, Nee Murray, and Paul Louis Snyder, who, if you remember, was the owner of the Buffalo Braves years ago. Teresa M. Kerouac, Nee Caligiuri, Robert M. Skibnewski, Sharon P. McMahon, Nee Kelly, and Ben Jones, who was Crazy Cooter from the Dukes of Hazzard, passed away at the age of 84. If you need further information on any of these names, again, you can call us at 716-821-5555.
It's time for Royal Stars.
Let's hear it.
Happy birthday for Tuesday, August 11th. You are a truth seeker. You're tenacious and bold and have an academic mind. This is a slower paced year. Rest and rejuvenate your energy. Focus on business and personal relationships, especially those people who are kind, helpful, and have your back. Concentrate on your needs and what brings you happiness. If you're Aries, many social possibilities might randomly occur today, which makes this a wonderful day to get out and schmooze with everyone. Love at first sight might begin tonight. Go ahead, socialize with others. Taurus, this is a fantastic day to entertain at home. People might help with home repairs while you're entertaining. That's interesting. Come over to my house and fix my sink.
Maybe my toilet's broke.
Yeah, real estate deals might be promising. Tonight, just entertain or relax at home. Gemini, today is full of surprise opportunities, new faces, new places, new ideas, and new opportunities. Do get dressed. Tonight there will be discussions. Cancer, be open to money-making ideas today, especially ideas that relate to home and family or real estate speculation. Tonight, though, check your money. Leos, this is an amazing day for you because the sun, the moon, Mercury, and Jupiter are all in your sign. And the moon is dancing beautifully with several other planets. Tonight, you will win.
Ooh.
Virgo, stay on your toes today because there's lots of opportunities available to you, especially going on behind the scenes. Tonight, enjoy your privacy behind the scenes.
Yes, that's important.
Libra, this is a fantastic day to schmooze with others. Interactions with clubs, groups, and friends will be successful and they'll be friendly. Tonight, continue to be friendly. Scorpio, this is a powerhouse of a day for you. 4 planets are dazzling at the top of your chart, promoting cooperation from work colleagues, financial institutions, and behind-the-scenes efforts. Tonight's you are going to win. Sagittarius, grab every opportunity to travel or explore avenues in publishing, the media, medicine, and law. You will benefit in all of those areas. Explore and learn tonight. Capricorn, financial discussions will go well today because doors will open for you. In fact, something might surprise you or catch you off guard. Be ready for it. Then how can it be surprising for you? Interesting. Tonight, check your finances. Aquarius, people want to talk to you today. Be aware for this and be prepared to cooperate and to go more than halfway. Tonight, you can listen and cooperate. Pisces, a number of amazing things might occur today related to your job, your health, or even your pet. Tonight, just get yourself organized. That's all.
A lot of disclaimers there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of people are going to win today, though.
That's right.
It's
that is true.
positive,
a lot of winners today.
It didn't say anything about any losers, but a lot of people are going to win.
Just get dressed.
Yes, but make sure, I think that goes for everybody. Get dressed.
Okay, so, people are the problem when it comes to cybersecurity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Unless they're undressed.
So, yeah. Cases of AI escaping the lab, infiltrating other companies, and trying to deceive people have all made headlines in recent weeks. And in one case, AI models even worked together to break free from their test environments. Does this mean the machines are taking over? Not quite. AI isn't the mastermind behind today's most widespread cyber threats. It's people who can use AI nefariously and for nefarious purposes. AI has given bad actors massive power, allowing them to create malicious software, research targets, create convincing schemes, and automate attacks on an unprecedented pace. 1/4 data breaches were driven by AI from February 25 to March of 26, according to an IBM report. And Americans lost more than $893 million to AI-related scams last year, the FBI said. But experts say real-world threat actors, that is, people, are still the ones pulling the strings. AI agents have only perpetuated existing attack methods, like phishing and malware scams, rather than creating wholly new ones. It's the humans that we need to watch out for, said Oren Etziani, professor emeritus at the University of Washington and former CEO of the Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence. AI is just a tool. Some recent incidents have shown what AI is capable of in the real world, not just in theory, igniting fears about whether the technology is advancing too quickly. In July, OpenAI test models escaped their constraints and hacked into other companies' systems during an internal evaluation. Days later, Anthropic said it discovered its AI models had breached 3 companies during testing. And in a separate test, Anthropic's most advanced model used fake identities to try to deceive real people, researchers at Britain's AI Security Institute said on Tuesday. One of Meta's AI models also broke into an external company, the social media said on Wednesday. Those breaches also show how unpredictable AI can be when interpreting instructions. OpenAI models, for example, were trying to pass a cybersecurity test when they broke out of their test environment and breached another company, even though they weren't told to do so. Patrick Fussell, global head of adversary simulation at IBM, compared AI to a genie. You want to ask it a wish, but you have to be very, very specific about the details of your wish, he said, or it could sort of go awry. But these instances also happen under very specific circumstances. OpenAI turned off restrictions that would have prevented its models from pursuing high-risk cyber activity. Anthropic ran its tests without the standard safety safeguards in models that are generally available to the public. The AI Security Institute also turned off certain tools that could have reduced the scope of what the models were capable of. Researchers typically do this to fully evaluate a model's capabilities. I couldn't go into ChatGPT or Claude or something like that and it accidentally breaks into the FBI. That's not going to happen, said Adam Myers, head of counter-adversary operations at cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike. So what we're seeing is these are done in specific test conditions where they're monitoring to see, does this thing do something that is not expected to do? Apparently it does. AI isn't acting autonomously to come up with new attacks, experts say. Instead, it's helping cyber criminals implement existing techniques much faster while being more efficient and effective. That can include things like using AI to analyze a company's website to figure out who to target or deploy an AI agent to handle initial negotiation talks with a cyber extortion victim. AI agents can mimic human conversations through both text and even specific voices. Hackers with little expertise can now leverage AI to pull off advanced schemes. They're using AI to enhance the cyber attack methodology, essentially in all the different stages, but it's still kind of being run by the human. Bad actors now are able to churn out higher quality work that looks like it would have taken 3 times as long to produce.
Very, very scary.
Yes, it is.
Amherst is vowing to refine tracking of employee benefits and payments. Amherst says it's putting new systems in place to better track employee leave time, stipend payments, and other benefits after a state audit criticized the town's lax record keeping and compliance with its own regulations. The state comptroller's office said its review found union and management level employees had accumulated vacation and other leave time worth hundreds of thousands of dollars without sufficient authorization. The audit also flagged $330,000 in stipends paid to town workers and officials that it said lacked detailed documentation of the added work they performed to merit the extra pay. And the report questioned $335,000 in potential overpayments to town retirees, primarily several police officers. These errors and discrepancies occurred and were not detected or corrected due to a variety of factors, including a decentralized process for maintaining leave records and a lack of oversight of leave records, stipends, and separation payments, the audit stated. Amherst officials responded that the town already has taken steps to replace its payroll systems and has put in place new controls and reporting requirements for managing benefits. The town also plans to limit future stipends. They also emphasized that in most of these cases, town employees had received permission to carry over vacation time or earn a stipend, even if supporting records weren't available in the auditor's preferred format. The audit cites $1.4 million in benefits and compensation awarded without sufficient documentation, but most of this total refers to the value of time earned by the workers that doesn't affect Amherst's budget, officials said. I'm glad the audit was done. Any chance we can improve here in the town of Amherst, we are going to do it, and we have been, said Supervisor Sean Lavin, who took office in January following 8 years on the board. The review covered a 28-month period ending May of 25, when Brian J. Culpa was town supervisor, but many of the processes questioned in the audit date back for years. Broadly speaking, the audit concluded the town provided leave time stipends and separation payments to Amherst employees that weren't authorized under town contractual agreements or by the town board. The audit looked at leave records for 116 employees and found 147 cases involving 73 employees that raised questions about the time they were awarded or allowed to carry over. For example, 32 union workers carried over 4,820 hours of vacation leave, valued at $157,000, without the town following the language in their contract. Those terms require at least 90 days advance notice to a department head to carry over unused vacation time from one year to another, and require their use within the next 90 days. Stipends were questioned. The town provides stipends beyond an employee's base pay to numerous Amherst workers. The stipends are listed in the town's annual budget, but the audit reported this document doesn't detail the purpose of the stipend or explain what added duties the employee must perform to earn this extra pay. The audit said the town supervisor, town board, and HR director couldn't fully document 22 stipends worth $328,000 paid to Amherst employees. The Human Resources Director told auditors he knew the purpose of all stipends reviewed by the Controller's Office, but he didn't have supporting written documentation. The audit found this lack of records undermines the transparency of the town's financial operations, with the town and sometimes the employees themselves not knowing what duties must be done to merit the stipends. The town touts changes. In its formal response, the town said it takes the findings and recommendations of the audit seriously and said it already has begun improving its systems for tracking and approving employees' benefits. This system will address most, if not all, the concerns that were in the audit, said the town.
And if you are a QVC fan, which I am, QVC is reaching back to chart a path forward. The QVC group has replaced Chief Executive David Rawlinson, bringing back predecessor Mike George as interim boss as the Westchester-based remote shopping pioneer comes out of bankruptcy and charts a future. The company also has named new directors with long retail and digital experience, replacing those who oversaw the company's under-billionaire media investor John Malone. With over 1,000 employees at its broadcasting campus, once one of Chester County's top tourism draws, QVC has struggled with the decline of television and the fragmentation of digital media. George said in a statement that he is excited to reconnect with the company veterans and to work with the new board. He promised innovative shopping experiences and better investor returns during the search for its permanent replacement. Having cut its crushing debt load in its bankruptcy reorganization, QVC still faces the challenge of adding young shoppers at a time when retailing has spread across social media platforms, streaming apps, and global e-commerce sites. QVC said it has emerged from Chapter 11 after cutting its debt load by over $5 billion and gaining access to $600 million in new credit. The company filed for bankruptcy protection in April after years of losses and cost cuts. Those included the shutdown of rival-turned-affiliate HSN's Florida campus last year. The companies have merged in 2017. The new financing is provided by hedge funds specializing in corporate turnarounds, led by Connecticut-based Strategic Value Partners, whose past focus included natural gas and building material companies, and the 2022 relaunch of airline Aeromexico, and LA-based Oak Tree Capital, a unit of Canada-based Brookfield Corporation. George departed after initiatives including his acquisition of Seattle online shopping network Zulily failed to generate profits. Rawlinson shut the division in 2023. Gone from that board are longtime allies of Malone, who invested in QVC in the 90s, bought control of the company from Comcast in 2003, and had served as chairman. He left the board last year. His son Evan, a Philadelphia entrepreneur, and other longtime QVC board members have been replaced.
And an unwanted guest results in rabies shots for a family. The state health department is concerned enough about possible human exposure to rabies from a variety of animals that in June it announced a series of rabies clinics across the state. While stressing that such cases are rare, they do happen. A Genesee County woman says she learned that lesson the hard way. Shannon Godlove said she and her 3 children had some very uninvited, middle-of-the-night bat guests in their hotel room during a visit to Ellicottville last month. As a result, she, her son, and 2 daughters were forced to undergo a series of rabies shots. Godlove, age 43, told the Buffalo News the incident occurred about 1 a.m. on July 11th at the Edelweiss Lodge in Ellicottville. Officials of the state police, Ellicottville Police, and the Cattaraugus County Health Department confirmed that they investigated the alleged bat incidents at the hotel that morning. A hotel manager, Dion Smolinski, told the News he questions whether any bats were really in the hotel that morning, but added that the hotel is cooperating fully with a health department inspection into the matter. And Godlove said that there is no doubt that 4 bats invaded the second floor suite of rooms where she was staying on a short vacation with her kids and 2 family friends. I grew up in the country. I have been around bats all my life, and I know what I saw, said Godlove, a Corfu resident. I'm not afraid of bats, but I am afraid of the diseases they can carry. I feel bad that my kids have to get these rabies shots. She said she woke up when she heard a flapping noise in the room where she was sleeping with her youngest daughter, Ivy. I felt something, a breeze on my face, and I knew immediately what it was, Godlove recalled. I turned on the light and I saw 2 bats flying back and forth in the room. I woke Ivy and said, "We have to get out of here." I was panicked. We crawled out of the room. Godlove says she quickly found 2 more bats swooping around in the hallway outside her room. She said she and her fellow guests hurried downstairs where they contacted the hotel manager and Ellicottville Police. I was hoping we could catch one of the bats to have it examined for rabies, she said. The Ellicottville police officer tried, but he said he didn't see any bats up there. She said the hotel manager allowed her and her fellow guests to spend the rest of the night in a room in a different building on the lodge property. According to a state police report, state troopers and a Cattaraugus County health inspector came to the hotel later that morning, but again were unable to find any bats. The health inspector found no bats, but did find a small opening near the roof of the building where bats could have come inside. We see reports like this every summer. It's prime time for bat exposure, Watkins said. Bats are living in attics where the weather has become very hot. They get disoriented and often end up going into other parts of a building. It's very unfortunate that the bats were not recovered. If they had been, we could have examined them, and if they were not rabid, she and her kids would have not had to get the rabies shots. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, 1.4 million Americans receive health care each year for possible rabies exposure, while fewer than 10 die from rabies. For anyone who is exposed to a bat, it is essential that they try to capture the bat and turn it over to local health authorities to have it examined for rabies. While only a small percentage of captured bats turn out to be rabid, no one who is exposed to a bat or any other potentially rabid animal should take chances. When a human being catches rabies and it is untreated, it is almost always fatal, the health director said. If there was any chance of exposure to a bat, you must call your health department. Watkins said the owners of the Edelweiss Lodge were told that they must have a nuisance wildlife professional examine the hotel for signs of bats or places where bats can enter the building. The wildlife professional must then report back to us, and we will inspect the building again. Until all that's done, we have told the people at Edelweiss they cannot rent any rooms in that building until we sign off on it. Watkins and Smolinski, who began working at Edelweiss in March of this year, said they are unaware of any previous bats incidents at that location. But Godlove says, and the news verified, that a person on a travel website, TripAdvisor, posted the following about Edelweiss in August of 24. Live bat in our room.
Oh, dear.
There you go.
Okay, so you are listening to a reading of articles from the Buffalo News for Tuesday, August 11th. We will, yes, on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We'll return for more reading after this short break. Your readers today are
Lori
and Lita.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
And we'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. Who are you?
I'm Lori.
And I'm Lita.
And we're readers.
And we are readers. And the middle class lifestyle now more unattainable. It's a good time to be a middle class American, and yet it's never felt worse. By many traditional measures, the economy is strong, unemployment remains near historic lows, and middle income Americans are making more than they were 50 years ago. Yet millions of Americans who have followed what was long considered the formula for a middle class life, earn degrees, work full-time, marry, buy a home, raise children, stick to a budget, increasingly wonder why financial security feels elusive. Part of the confusion is that middle income and middle class are not the same. Middle income is an economic measurement, and middle class is something broader. The belief that steady work should provide stability, a dose of comfort, and a reason to expect that children will have at least as many opportunities as their parents. Increasingly, economists say households can reach middle income while falling short of their middle class expectations. That helps explain one of the central puzzles of today's economy. At the low and middle income levels, Americans' feelings about the economy this year hit the lowest point in nearly half a century of tracking. Years of inflation erased many wage gains. Housing, childcare, and healthcare consume larger shares of family budgets even when two adults are working full-time. Rapid advancements in artificial intelligence have added new uncertainty about future work, while soaring stock prices have largely benefited households with significant investments. There's a belief that if you follow the rules, if you go to school and pay your taxes and pay your bills and send your kids to college and whatever, that you're supposed to do better than the generation before you, said David Autor, an economics professor at Mass Institute of Technology. When that doesn't happen, he said, that's part of when people feel like society's not functioning well. Attempts to explain this contradiction often get boiled down to some version of fact versus perception, enraging many middle-class Americans tired of being told they have unrealistic expectations. The disconnect suggests something is broken, and economists, policymakers, and corporate leaders are increasingly trying to figure out why Americans are so unhappy when on paper things look pretty good. Tasha Coates knows what middle-class security feels like and what it's like to lose it. Coates and her husband, who lived in Plymouth, Minnesota, raised 2 children, both worked, paid the bills, and managed occasional family vacations. Yet today, 66-year-old Coates says maintaining that life is harder than she ever expected. At the time, it was a pinch, she said, but to me, it didn't feel as pinched then as it does today. There are 2 ways to think about what it means to be an American in the middle. There's how much a person has to earn to be considered middle income, and there's what it feels like to be middle class. Middle income can be defined in different ways, including the middle 60% of earners or a dollar range based on area median income. Defining the middle class is trickier because it's about a sense of financial security rather than just income. People who make more or less than the middle income range may still consider themselves middle class because of how they grew up, how they live now, and how secure they feel about their future or those of their children. In a forward-looking measure, separate from overall sentiment, the University of Michigan surveys of consumers in May showed only the top third of earners were more optimistic about future economic conditions than they were in October 1979, the earliest available data.
After a violent July, the city is seeking solutions. In the aftermath of a violent 4th of July weekend where 11 people were shot in a matter of hours in the block surrounding an East Delavan Street party, city officials worked to explain what had happened. The answers often came back to a single person, a party organizer police later identified as 24-year-old Devon Alexander, who continues to elude the police. He is accused of promoting the party online, part of a larger trend of directing young people to a public area for large outdoor parties, sometimes called street takeovers, many of which result in violence. You're promoting an illegal event, Police Commissioner Erica Shields said at a news conference soon after, with the motto being a street takeover. Chaotic scenes of large groups accosting and berating police, fighting and swarming the streets around East Sullivan and Grider Streets were posted across social media platforms. Shields said the department, having seen online advertisements for the party, added 150% to the manpower deployed on the holiday in an effort to contain the anticipated disruptions. That was not nearly enough. Among the 11 people shot, all of whom lived, was a 13-year-old. The weekend was part of a significant uptick in gun violence during the month. A total of 22 people were shot in July, with 2 of those shootings leading to deaths. While 5-year averages for both shootings and shooting victims remain down by 40%, and homicides are down 44% over last year through the end of July, shooting incidents are up 7%, and shooting victims are up 17% over last year, according to data from the department. In the weeks since the raucous holiday weekend, the focus on young people's involvement has sparked discussions about how to best keep them out of violent situations. Shields, who a department spokesperson said was not available for an interview, attended several community talks in the wake of the 4th of July violence, including one at Westminster Community Charter School in mid-July. At that meeting, she stressed the need to form relationships with groups doing the online groundwork of gun violence prevention. Arresting individuals and getting the guns off the streets is a strong component of our job, Shields said. But somehow, the department has to get to be making inroads before we get to that point. Since being released from prison in 21, after serving 27 years on a homicide conviction, John Tubbsmith has been working with the city's young people, trying to give them direction and keep them out of trouble, while also working to directly intervene in disputes that could lead to gun violence. He brought a group of young mentees with him to the event where he asked Shields what the department is doing to interact directly with young people at risk of falling into situations that could lead them to becoming involved in violence. Part of the issue he sees for young people, especially young men from the city's poorest neighborhoods, is that violent behavior is always admonished and highlighted by the department and city when there are issues. But the city and police department rarely ever recognize young people from those same neighborhoods for the good work that they do. They're recognized for everything that they do wrong, but y'all not recognized for anything that they do good, he said. Common Council President pro tempore Zenita Everhart has made gun violence and prevention one of her top priorities since joining the council in 2024. And she was instrumental in establishing the city's Office of Gun Violence Prevention. She said that violence among young people is and has been a consistent problem in cities across the nation. For her, the most important part to changing how the city addresses that violence is in understanding why young people are engaging in violence, and the best way to do that is to go directly to the source. We can't just say they're violent and not actually address why they're violent. At the meeting, Shields said she had set up a youth advisory board that met regularly in her previous post in Louisville and was in the process of establishing one in Buffalo. She acknowledged that young people from high violence neighborhoods are often blamed for violence issues in cities across the country, while rarely being given the opportunity to participate in coming up with solutions. Too often, city boards and committees aimed at violence prevention are full of older people, not from the communities most affected by the gun violence. Your voice matters, she said, addressing the young men in the audience who had come with Smith. Shortly after the rash of shootings on the holiday weekend, Everhart held a listening session attended by many young people from neighborhoods that disproportionately affected by gun violence, where people offered ideas and observations that were collected by her office. She is working with a group from SUNY Buffalo State University to analyze and organize the responses in an effort to move towards solutions. Everhart said one thing is clear from her work on gun violence, reinforced by the responses her office received at the listening session. Young people in the city, especially from the neighborhoods where violence is most prevalent, do not have enough opportunities for employment, for mentorship, for learning, or for entertainment. That crime literally happens because of the lack of those resources, she said.
Okay, listen up, all you people who are age 70 or older, or if you know people that are that old. There's some information here about blood pressure. By age 70, most adults, 70% or more, have high blood pressure, hypertension, defined as a consistent reading of 130/80 or higher. Most of them need at least 2 blood pressure medications to keep their pressure under control, and up to 30% require 3 drugs. With more than 200 different blood pressure medications on the market, how do doctors select the right combination for you? The most recent blood pressure guidelines feature detailed advice about hypertension treatment, which includes 4 classes of drugs deemed first-line options: angiotensin receptor blockers, or ACE inhibitors, calcium channel blockers, and of course diuretics. When deciding which drugs to prescribe, doctors consider many factors, including whether you have stage 1 or stage 2 hypertension and any heart-related health risks or diagnoses such as diabetes or coronary artery disease. I also review my patients' other health issues and ask about their daily lives, including what they do for a living and how much time they spend outdoors, since their answers may affect which blood pressure medications are best for them, said Dr. Catherine Sakmar, assistant professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School and internist at Mass General. What is stage 1 hypertension treatment? Stage 1 hypertension is defined as systolic blood pressure, the first number in the reading, of 130 to 139, or diastolic blood pressure, the second number, of 80 to 89. So that's your top and bottom number. Incorporating lifestyle changes into your daily routine, such as eating a low-sodium, plant-forward diet and exercising regularly, can lower the number of medications you need. Choosing which drug to try first is highly individualized for each person. Fortunately, most of the effective first-line choices in the 4 classes below are available as inexpensive generics. Number 1, angiotensin receptor blockers. By blocking angiotensin, which is a hormone that causes arteries to constrict, these drugs help blood vessels remain relaxed. ARBs often are the first drug doctors prescribe for stage 1 hypertension treatment. They also help protect the kidneys, so they are recommended for people with kidney disease or diabetes. Examples are losartan, irbesartan, and valsartan. Number 2 are ACE inhibitors. These drugs help blood vessels to relax and widen by inhibiting angiotensin. Many people tolerate these drugs well, but ARBs are just as effective and don't cause the dry cough some people have when taking ACE inhibitors. So doctors usually prescribe ARBs over ACE inhibitors in people newly diagnosed with hypertension. Examples of those would be benazepril, enalapril, and lisinopril. Number 3, calcium channel blockers. By blocking calcium entering cells, these medicines help the heart relax and blood vessels widen. In younger people with mildly elevated blood pressure, Sakmar often starts with one of these. They have relatively few side effects. The most common is swelling in the lower legs, and calcium channel blockers are often used to treat angina and abnormal heart rhythms. Examples are amlodipine, felodipine, and nifedipine XR. And lastly, thiazide diuretics, sometimes called water pills. These drugs help rid the body of excess salt and water. But the most common side effect, frequent urination, can be problematic, especially for people with urinary problems. Thiazide diuretics also make people more sensitive to the sun and may raise the risk of skin cancer, so they're not ideal for people who spend a lot of time outdoors. Diuretics are rarely used initially, but they can enhance the benefits of other blood pressure drugs. Examples are chlorothalidone, hydrochlorothiazide, and indapamide. So, what is stage 2 hypertension treatment? Stage 2 hypertension is a systolic reading, a top number of 140 or higher, and a lower reading of 90 or higher. Should generally be treated with at least 2 drugs. Smaller doses or 2 or 3 medications tend to be more effective than a higher dose of a single one. According to a 2025 scientific statement from the American Heart Association, using single pill combinations such as an ARB plus a calcium channel blocker or diuretic can help people reach their blood pressure targets faster. Compared with taking separate pills, Combining drugs also are linked to a lower risk of heart attack and stroke, fewer side effects, and a better quality of life and lower cost.
I wonder what time it is.
I don't know.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. And not to keep you in suspense, the time is 15 minutes after the hour.
Thank you for that, Lori.
You're welcome. I want to talk about sports. Let's look at Bison's Peretta, a natural for Hall. Mike Peretta had plenty of deprecating moments on Sunday in Salem Field. After all, teams don't normally offer their ticket manager lifelong honors. And Peretta, who started with the Buffalo Bisons as an intern back in 1985, probably wondered if this whole thing was some kind of a prank when he got the word a few months ago. One of those classic workaholics who likes to stay under the radar, Peretta got his just due and a couple of standing ovations at the pub in the park when he was inducted into the Buffalo Baseball Hall of Fame prior to the team's game against the Norfolk Tides. The man everyone around the club calls Poe deserved every second of it. I'd now like to congratulate everyone in this room on witnessing history, deadpanned Peretta, age 62. I've done extensive research on the previous 112 members inducted into the Buffalo Baseball Hall of Fame, and I can quite confidently say that I am the first inductee that batted last and was the catcher on my old softball team. A ticket manager who is a softball duffer going in with all those great players and managers and executives? You bet. Don't let Peretta's humor fool you. When you think of all the accomplishments the Black Rock native and Tonawanda resident has been a part of, they fill a hall plaque just like anyone else. Peretta, a Canisius High and Medaille College product, was a major player in the memorable 1987 farewell season at War Memorial Stadium and helped shepherd the franchise to Pilot Field the very next year. Remember how opening day for the 1988 stadium inaugural game sold out in 84 minutes? People camped out overnight. We had no idea how it would go, Peretta recalled. We put 4 tickets in envelopes. No internet then. You didn't pick your seats. At the Seneca Street gate. 4 tickets, boom, 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 here you go, and they were gone. There were iconic events like the AAA All-Star Game and Old Timers Classic, numerous playoff games. How about selling and distributing 16,000 tickets in one day for that 18-inning tiebreaker playoff against Nashville back in 1990? This is a franchise that routinely had 9,000 season tickets and sold more than 1 million tickets for 6 straight years, an accomplishment that will never be matched. The million mark has been reached one other time in the history of the Miners by Louisville back in 1983. And it happened 6 times in a row here in Buffalo. Peretta orchestrated all of that. The Bisons aren't what they once were. Frankly, most minor league clubs aren't in the wake of the pandemic, and now that they're under the tight-fisted control of Major League Baseball. But they still sell nearly 500,000 tickets per season 38 years after the park opened, and it can still be party central in the summer. There was, for instance, a combined total of more than 25,000 tickets sold for the games here against Norfolk on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's no shortage of fans and front office teammates who have called Peretta over the years with a ticket question or a crisis that needed to be solved. He's helped create countless memories for Bison's fans, said Mike Bukowski, the Rich Baseball president, who was the team's longtime general manager. He's incredibly customer-focused. He's dependable, reliable, and dedicated. His commitment, his loyalty to this organization, his genuine care for the people we serve is so obvious for anybody that has come in contact with Mike. Peretta thanked Bison's owners, Bob and Mindy Rich, and paid tribute to longtime team executives John Dandies and Joe Segarra, who both died this year. It takes all of 4 words for family to show up in the description on the Rich's website, and that is not at all a marketing pitch, he said. The culture and family atmosphere Bob and Mindy and Mr. Rich before them have built, and every one of their businesses is the key to their success. I know it's the key to our success. What we do every day at the ballpark would not be possible without the family atmosphere that permeates the fabric of our office. Asked to expand on those thoughts, Pareda said he tells young employees that working for the Riches is not normal and that it's something he's proud of. I tell people if this is their first job in the corporate world that if you go somewhere else, it's not going to be like this, he said. We're not normal, and I'm proud to say that. The Riches have demanded us to be a family and to treat everyone that way. It's what we know and what we always try to deliver. Pareda said he considers the fans the lifeblood of our organization. He made sure to thank several Bison's employees, past and present, like former Assistant General Manager Marka Hizuski, who hired him in 1985, and former General Manager Mike Baloney, long described as the P.T. Barnum of baseball. Baloney and longtime clubhouse manager Kevin Hodge were among several former Bison employees on hand for this ceremony. No idea was too crazy for Mike, Pareda said of Baloney. I used to tell Mike he was half devil, half Santa Claus. Both were super challenging to try to figure out. Pareda earned the nod along with former Buffalo outfielder Jesus Feliciano, the sweet-singing Mets-era player who was a hit machine for the Herd from 2009 to 2011. Pareda's wife, Janet, was at the ceremony along with his two sons, Jimmy and Chris, and several other family members. Pareda thanked his family for more than 40 years of long summer nights when he was at the ballpark and not always with them. The days are long, but the months and years are short, he said. When you're grinding through a long homestand with 5 night games in a row, those 14 days are sure long. But here we are, August 9th, and it doesn't seem like opening day on March 27th was that long ago. Bukowski closed his remarks with a reference to the 1988 Kevin Costner Baseball Classics Fields of Dreams. James Earl Jones says in the movie, "The one constant, Ray, is baseball," Bukowski said. Well, for the Buffalo Bisons, our one constant has been Mike Pareda.
That's a wonderful story. And let's talk Buffalo Bills. O'Cyrus Torrence needs to improve for Bills' investment to age well from good old Lance. No serious Super Bowl contender would allow a young, durable guard to walk in free agency. General Manager and President of Football Operations Brandon Beane had to sign O'Cyrus Torrence. He had started 50 of the 51 regular season games in which he has appeared since the Bills selected him out of Florida with the 59th pick in the 2023 draft. In consecutive seasons, the Bills allowed the fewest sacks. For the 24 season, Josh Allen was named the NFL's most valuable player. In 25, James Cook won the rushing title. The resume led coach Joe Brady to call Torrence elite at his position. He's one of the top guards in football, and last year he battled through so much and was out there with every injury and didn't blink, Brady said last week. And when hours before, Torrence signed a 4-year extension worth up to $78.4 million. He's as tough as it gets, and he's kind of the epitome of what we want here.
Of what we want, here.
Of what we want, here. Thank you. The Bills are paying Torrence like one of the best. He'll be the 7th highest paid guard. Brady's assertion, however, probably wouldn't hold up if we had more data points to evaluate individual offensive linemen, and that's okay. In the reality, the Bills' commitment to Torrence is a bet on his potential. Any successful general manager would rather pay someone young like Torrence for what they're going to become rather than a 30-or-something-year-old who for what they've already accomplished. Beane is betting on Torrance's work ethic and talent. The decision also shows confidence in the coaching staff, though offensive line coach Pat Meyer is entering his first season in Buffalo. For the contract to age well, Torrence needs to improve. Torrence, who's 26 years old, is self-aware. He sees the areas where he needs to be better in 26, the most important of all, pre-snap responsibilities. There's more to playing offensive line than blocking the guy in front of you with one scan of the field. Torrence needs to be able to communicate to Allen and center Connor McGovern how the defense will try to stop the Bills. In 3 seasons, Torrence has allowed just 6 sacks, according to Pro Football Focus. Allen's linemen are rated annually as among the NFL's best based on ESPN's run block and pass block win ratio. I feel like this is another year of me proving myself, but also proving myself with something behind it, said Torrance. In the sense of coming in here as a rookie, second-round pick, proving that first year you're a rookie starter, the next 2 years is like, can you stack it up? Nobody is looking for you to be great, but can you stack it up? Now they are looking for you to be great. You have the contract behind you. Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown, the Bills' left tackles and right tackle, respectively, are signed through 27. McGovern inked a 4-year contract in March, and though the Bills lost their starting left guard, David Edwards, to the Saints in free agency, the departure did not signal how Beane views that position. Guards are a pivotal part of the offense. Torrance is 3 years younger than Edwards, too. A portion of the fan base is nervous because salary cap space is at a premium on a team with a superstar quarterback, and Torrance has not performed yet like a top guard in football. The position is too valuable, especially in setting the depth of the pocket for Allen, to take it for granted. With heavier personnel groupings in vogue, the Bills will be willing to pay the tight end if he stays healthy. His next contract will will not start until after some bigger deals are cleared from their books. Remember, Buffalo was 11-3 last season with Kincaid available. He has the potential to be among the best tight ends in the NFL, and he should take another step with DJ Moore in this offense. Keon Coleman has not done himself any favors since training camp began. The drops continue to happen. His primary competition, Joshua Palmer, is taking advantage of every opportunity on the field with Allen. Palmer's routine running is arguably the best among the Bills' receivers, a skill that will make it difficult to take him off the field in favor of Coleman. The Bills' depth chart at wide receiver in order are Moore, Khalil Shakir, Palmer, and Coleman. It's early, and the season does not start for more than a month. Moore looks like a legitimate number one receiver, though, and as important, the accuracy Allen has shown on deep throws in camp should strike fear into defenses.
All right, a little bit of Bison notes. McAdoo is honored, called up on big day. Buffalo Bison's infielder Charles McAdoo was named International League Player of the Week on Monday, and the Red Hot series against Norfolk that earned him the honors also produced his second call-up of the season to the Toronto Blue Jays, and that was late Monday afternoon. McAdoo homered in each of the final 4 games of the series, including a 2-run shot in the 8th inning Saturday that snapped a tie and gave the Bisons a 10-8 win over the Tides. He had a chance to tie the franchise mark of 5 games Tuesday at Worcester, but the Blue Jays promoted him as part of a slew of moves they made prior to Monday's series opener against Boston. McAdoo, age 24, batted .464 as the Bisons won 4 of 6 games from Norfolk. The AAA rookie went 13 for 28 and drove in 13 runs, pushing his team's best totals for the season to 16 homers and 57 RBIs. McAdoo is batting .438 in August and is second on the team with 89 hits. He got his first big league call-up on May 28th and battled .160 with 1 homer and 3 RBIs in 8 games. The Bisons are 21-18 in the IL second half and are 4 games out of first place, currently held by Scranton Wilkes-Barre 24-13 and Indianapolis 25-14. Feliciano enters the Herd Hall. Outfielder Jesus Feliciano became the first player from the Bison's short run with the New York Mets 2009-12 to be inducted into the Buffalo Baseball Hall of Fame Sunday. Feliciano is the only player in the team's modern era to collect 3 consecutive 100-hit seasons, and his 371 total hits are second in franchise history to Selby's 378. Feliciano was team MVP in 2009 after batting .311 in an IL high with an IL high 154 hits. He batted .339 in 89 games in 2010 and was at .263 with 103 hits for Buffalo in 2011. To receive this recognition is incredibly special, and it is something that I will carry with me and my family forever, he said. I had the privilege of wearing the Bison's uniform for 3 seasons. Buffalo was more than just a place to play. It was a city that welcomed me, an organization that gave me an opportunity to continue my journey. It was teammates and coaches that became friends and fans that made me feel at home. In addition to thanking the Bison's organization, Feliciano thanked longtime Herd superfan Mark Achinger for his support. During that time here, one thing I always kept in mind was I never wanted to stink, said a smiling Feliciano, referring to Achinger's long-held taunt of slumping Bisons or opponents from his seat in Section 102. I want to thank him. In his own unique way, he helped push me to always give my best every day I stepped on that field. After his playing days ended, Feliciano served as a minor league manager and was a first base coach for the Los Angeles Angels. He currently serves as executive director of the Puerto Rico Baseball Academy and High School in Garabo, a school that has produced MLB players such as Houston Astros shortstop Carlos Correa. And he doesn't stink. Hopefully we don't stink at reading. Who knows?
No.
The offense has been grand. The Bison scored 42 runs against Norfolk, averaging 7 per game. They won Sunday's game 9-3 as outfielder Daz Cameron snapped a 7th-inning tie with a long grand slam to the left. In Saturday's game, catcher Willie McIver also popped a grand slam to the left to give Buffalo an 8-3 lead in the 5th. The wins, Saturday and Sunday, marked the first time in 27 years that the Bisons had grand slams in consecutive games downtown. The feat was last accomplished against Columbus on August 14th and 15th, 1999, and were both hit by catcher Chris Turner. McIver was designated for assignment by the Blue Jays on Monday, while infielder Davis Schneider and pitcher Lazaro Estrada were returned to a Buffalo Bisons.
Quite an honor. And let's just talk about James Cook real quick.
But we want to know what time
yes,
it
we
is.
do, don't we? Yes, we do. And it says, so, yes, you are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 31 minutes past the hour.
Thanks, Lita.
You're welcome, Lori. And let's talk about James Cook. James Cook's contract extension with the Buffalo Bills turns 1 year old on Thursday. It was August 13th in 2025 that the running back agreed to a 4-year deal with the team worth up to $46 million. At the time of signing, Cook was tied for the 6th highest paid running back in the league. Less than a year later, he's dropped to number 13 on that list, following a trio of big money extensions handed out last week. Detroit's Jamar Gibbs signed for $22.5 million, Atlanta Bijan Robinson signed for $22.25 million, and Indianapolis's Jonathan Taylor signed for $22 million, and that has raised the bar for running back salaries across the league. I've seen the numbers, Bills general manager and president of football operations Brandon Beane said. You're talking about a couple of really good young backs in Bijan and Gibbs from Detroit. You're seeing it all over the board. You're seeing a lot of guys get deals done. Receivers, O-line, this is the time of year where you see people kind of know it's getting. Are we going to get something done or not? I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see more teams over the next couple of weeks before we get into the live bullets. Cook's $11.5 million average annual value suddenly looks like a steal for the Bills, just a bit more than half a Gibbs AAV. That's especially glaring after a season in which Cook won the league's rushing title with over 1,600 yards, joining O.J. Simpson as the only member of the franchise to accomplish that. We were glad to get that done last year, Beane said last week of Cook's contract. It was about the time we finished camp, if I remember correctly. I think James missed some practices or whatever, but you could tell he worked in the offseason and he was prepared. His body was prepared. Sometimes guys face injuries and things like that. I thought he did a great job and obviously he had a great season. He's worked hard again this offseason. Beane's memory serves him well. Cook did conduct a brief hold-in. He was present at practice but did not participate as his new deal moved forward toward the goal line. Cook had never been shy about making it clear that it's a business. He's right to do so, too. NFL careers are short, and players should fight for their fair market value. Cook had such a good season that it's fair to wonder whether he's suddenly going to feel underpaid. The running back hasn't said anything publicly about wanting to rework his deal, but it's certainly his representatives have seen where the positional market has gone. The numbers speak for themselves in that regard. Both the dollar figures in the new contracts and Cook's stats over the past 2 seasons. In that time, he's rushed for over 2,600 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 131 first downs. All guys are going to look at deals and know, my next time up, I want to be in this range, Bean said. You could probably go poll 30 guys in the locker room, and they see a player's deal, and they go, oh man, I'd like to be with this guy or that guy. Cook's importance to the offense can't be underestimated. Next to Josh Allen, a case can be made he's the team's most important offensive piece. I love the player, offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael said Monday. Anytime you can get the ball in his hands, you have an opportunity for a big play. We're fortunate to have him, and I think that he can bring value not only in the run game, but in the pass game as well. Carmichael said Cook's usage in the passing game will be game plan specific, but it's fair to think there is room for his role to grow in that part of the offense. He's had 32 and 33 catches respectively the past 2 seasons. That's an average about 2 per game. If the Bills can increase that total to 3 per game, Cook would be in the neighborhood of 50 catches, and that would only add to his value to the Bills, a value that is increasingly looking like a team-friendly deal.
All right, let's have some observations from Catherine Fitzgerald, who's the news sports reporter. When Buffalo Bills starting center Connor McGovern went down during the return of the blue and red on Saturday, it was backup Lloyd Cushenberry III who got the bulk of the reps. Thrust into playing with the first teamers, Cushenberry balanced feeling good about his Saturday performance while also focusing on what he can improve next. It went well, Cushenberry told the Buffalo News on Monday. Unexpected, not expecting Connor to go down so early, but I think it was good. Feel like I was ready to step in there. A few things I can get better at I'm working with towards this week, leading up to the first game. McGovern did not practice on Monday, the Bills' first training camp practice of the season back in the Kaleida Health Performance Center. For 11-on-11, Cushenberry worked with quarterback Josh Allen and the starting offensive line once again. It's up and down, Cushenberry said Monday. First time working as many reps with the ones, so it's got to get back into the rhythm of things. Probably not the best as a whole, but room to get better, and I'll be better tomorrow. Cushenberry felt good about the communication with Allen and the offensive line, but he self-critiqued his execution. After practice ended, he remained on the field for extra work by himself. I just gotta stay ready, especially the role I'm in, Cushenberry said. You never know whether it's center or guard. I gotta stay ready at all times. So I'm trying to be a pro and be ready for whenever my name is called. Cushenberry, age 28, entered the league as a third-round pick of the Denver Broncos back in 2020. He feels comfortable working with a rotating cast of players, a good omen as the Bills continue to play Alec Anderson and Austin Corbett at left guard. While Cushenberry is new to the Bills this season after 2 years with the Tennessee Titans, his teammates can feel his veteran knowledge on the field. You can tell he's been in the league for a while. Left guard Osiris Torrance said, you can feel the experience with him. It's everybody different, and the way Josh takes snaps and the way to move off, it's just a little bit different. But seeing how he's able to shake it off and be able to keep playing the next job, you respect it, and it's admirable. Told that Cushenberry was hard on himself for Monday's practice, Torrance pushed back. We in it together, Torrance said. If he had a bad day, we all had a bad day. I could have did better with helping on certain reps and stuff like that and make communication easier for him because I've been in there with the ones a little bit longer, so I feel like we all kind of take that one on our shoulder just as much as he does. Gardner Johnson injured again. During 11-on-11, Allen threw to the end zone looking for wide receiver Joshua Palmer. Instead, safety C.J. Gardner Johnson nearly intercepted it, but with a price. Gardner Johnson was injured on that play. He initially looked like he was just joking with teammates, but as time went on, Gardner Johnson needed attention from the members of the Bills' athletic training staff, who appeared to be looking at his right leg, the same leg he injured at St. John Fisher, where he suffered a calf strain. With safety Cole Bishop already missing Monday's practice, safeties DeMar Hamlin and Geno Stone finished the team drills. Gardner Johnson did not return and appeared frustrated on the sideline. Other injuries. In addition to Bishop and McGovern, the following Bills did not practice on Monday. Running back Ty Johnson, wide receivers Skylar Bell, Terrell Shavers, Jamori McClin, and Stephen Gosnell. Defensive lineman Zane Durant, Durant, cornerback Maxwell Hairston, defensive back DJ Miller, and punter Mitch Wishnowski. Left tackle Deion Dawkins appeared shaken up on a play during an 11-on-11 and got attention from the athletic trainers, but he missed just one rep before returning and finishing the practice.
That's a lot of injuries.
That is a lot of injuries. Get them out of the way.
Yes, please. Do it now. Okay, how about a little emotional fitness?
I need some.
Okay, so here's an idea. Don't postpone your joy. So much of the time we put off feeling joy. More than half of the vacation days Americans get from their employers go unused. Many people are afraid to take time off because they're fearful someone may try to step in to take their jobs. Others think that cashing in those vacation days is better for their finances, and that may be true, but giving up your vacation time may take away from that bundle of things you have to look forward to. Happiness comes when you are moving toward your goals, and planning a vacation can be one of them. Just thinking about an upcoming vacation can give you a lift. Having future plans is so important. I often tell clients who are going away on a summer trip to start discussing the next great family adventure as soon as possible after they return. Making plans should always be near the top of your to-do list. Too many people push their personal joy aside. It's so important to give yourself some special moments and make some memories to share and look back on. Having a balance of work and play in your life actually decreases the likelihood of developing disorders like anxiety, depression, and burnout. Finding your joy also will help keep you in good physical health. When stressed, we don't function as well as we would like, and most of the world knows this simple fact. Americans take the least vacation time of any developed nation. It's good to be industrious, but you can't be creative when you're overwhelmed and your brain and body are crying for a break. Please listen to yourself, family members, and co-workers. And if you see that those around you need more joy in their lives, you probably do as well. In addition to taking vacations in other parts of the country or the world, there is much you can enjoy closer to home. In fact, the staycation has become a ritual for many. Between going to nearby camping grounds or taking day trips, you can enjoy things you haven't seen or done before. Couples who do new things together tend to build strong relationships. This closeness comes from the hormone oxytocin, also known as the cuddle hormone, which becomes stronger when you seek out new activities with your partner. Seeking a little joy in your life in this way is not only good for you, but also good for your partner and your relationship. Some folks who are doing the single life may not see a benefit in going on vacation alone, which is understandable. You can ask a friend or relative to take a trip with you. If no one is available, there also are single cruises, trips, and more local activities. All you have to do is take the time to look. A quick internet search should help you find many things to do, no matter what your circumstances. Go ahead and give yourself a vacation. If postponing joy has been your habit, it's time to break it. After a week or two of relaxation and adventure, you will come back to your regular life feeling refreshed and be able to accomplish so much more. You also will reap the benefit of making memories that will last forever.
All right. Let's find some hints from Heloise. Dear Heloise, people spend money on vitamins without knowing when and how to take them. Certain vitamins will do their job best when they are absorbed or right along with certain foods. For example, soluble vitamins A, E, D, and K are best absorbed when they are taken with fat-rich foods such as whole milk, butter, oil, and yogurt. If at all possible, take them with your largest meal of the day. Vitamins B and C are water-soluble and can be taken without food. When taken with food, they're absorbed slower. What your body can't use will be eliminated through your waste product. Vitamin C will have the best effect if taken little by little all day long. Calcium tablets work best with vitamin D, but be very careful because excessive amounts of vitamin D can be harmful. Zinc and folate tablets work well when taken together. However, a word of warning before taking any of these vitamins, please consult with your doctor about whether you should be taking any vitamins at all. While vitamins can provide a benefit, they can also harm if they're not taken correctly or if they're not taken in moderation. let's have some hair care hints. Dear Heloise, I have so many women tell me their hair doesn't have any bounce. As a hairdresser, here's a hint to help you regain some volume and bounce. Bend over at the waist and let your hair go forward. Use your hair dryer to dry the roots of your hair. Leave the ends for last and don't over dry your hair. If you have trouble keeping the curl in your hair, just give it a very light spritz of hairspray. Let it dry. Then use your curling iron to curl your hair. You'll find that your hair will grab the curl much better. Want a little more shine? Don't we all? In a plastic container, squeeze out enough shampoo to wash your hair, and then add the yolk of 1 egg and mix it together. Wash your hair the way you usually do and rinse. The yolk will add a little extra shine. I don't know. That's
rinse well, very well.
Rinse well. Don't go out in the heat and fry your hair. Fading freckles. Dear Heloise, I have freckles and I don't like them. My grandmother recommended putting lemon juice on my freckles, then sitting in the sun to fade them. But somehow this just seems too old-fashioned, and it worries me that my freckles will be too sensitive for this routine. How do I hide my freckles? Carrie from Alpena, Michigan. Carrie, you can't fade freckles, and sitting in the sun with lemon juice on your face will not do your skin any favors. Try using a sunscreen lotion with a 50 SPF or above when you go outside. This will at least help keep them from getting darker. Lemon juice will increase your skin sensitivity to sunlight. There's also makeup that's designed to hide skin imperfections, but many people find freckles to be charming. If you can't change it, then you should try to make the best of it. Embrace it. Be proud of your special brand of beauty. Just a quick warning. I was squeezing some limes once, and I thought that the lime smelled so good on my hands that I just rubbed it in, and then I went outside in the sun. Worst rash ever. I wasn't sitting in the sun. I was just walking around and doing stuff.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Okay.
The sun and lime juice, not
good.
Not good.
I did used to put lemon juice in my hair when I was younger to lighten it.
I remember hearing that too.
Yeah, that's probably why I got kinky hair. So let's ask Eric something.
All right.
Dear Eric, my parents married as teens and had 2 children, me and my younger sister Jody. That's weird. My sister's name is Jody. They divorced when I was 2, and I never saw my father again. My mother and her second husband were abusive to us. As an adult, I have maintained as calm a life as I can, and I have a husband of more than 40 years, 2 wonderful children, and a great career. Jody has had a string of bad relationships and is always estranged from one or more of her children due to her own abusive nature. However, because of our shared trauma, I have always tried to be there for her. Now, a DNA test has revealed that we have half-siblings whom we met last month. I like them both. One was open about their past difficulty with drugs and alcohol, but has worked very hard to change their life for the better. Jody is jealous of my friendship with these siblings and is trying to sabotage it by doing background checks on them to reveal any sordid thing that has happened to them or their kids. Personally, I think we all have things we wish we hadn't done, and people deserve dignity and the right to turn their life around. How do I proceed with this? Do I see them without Jody and risk her finding out, or include her in our future get-togethers and hope she comes around? It's still very early in these new relationships, and I just want to see if we have enough common ground to proceed. Signed, oldest sibling. Dear sibling, Jody has things she needs to process about these relationships, and right now she may not be going about it in the healthiest way. It's not your job to correct or to manage that, so the best path forward may be to work on your relationship with her and your relationships with your half-siblings separately. Consider headlining this for Jody by telling her you're not as keen on the background checks, but you're not trying to turn it into a conflict. Tell her you're taking a live and let live approach to the siblings, and while she's free to keep doing whatever checks she wants, you're comfortable continuing to engage with them in person and building a relationship. This way, you don't have to fear her finding out, and you can try to mitigate some of the attempted sabotage. You don't need to get her okay, nor do you need to keep her abreast of future meetups. You can be there for Jody while still keeping a boundary that protects your other relationships. Dear Eric, I read your column online on occasion, and I wanted to comment on the letter from Phone Home, who is upset that her grown children do not call her weekly. Why is it the adult children's responsibility to call weekly? If Phone Home wants to talk to them weekly or even more often, why can't she not call? I come from a place where my mother is the same age as Phone Home and similarly believes our relationship is my job to keep up, and all calls and visits should be in my effort or expense. I'm 54, and despite having a family of my own, I have been the one responsible for keeping up with my relationship with my parents since I left home at 18. Meanwhile, my mother doesn't answer when I call and calls back hours later, stating that she was so busy with her friends. When I'm with her, she keeps her phone in her hand at all times and answers if anyone calls, so I know she's willing to talk to some people when they call. Now that I have grown children, I want a weekly call with them, so I make sure to set up a weekly call. I found my email program had an option for video calls, so each weekend I contact them in a group chat and ask what day and time is a good day for a family video call. While Phone Home may not know how or want a video call, why can she not ask, is this evening a good time for a call, and call them? After 30 years of being lectured and told I was a terrible daughter for not calling my mother enough, I've realized that the phone works both ways, and let go of the guilt of not meeting her calling expectation. Signed, Phone Works Both Ways. Dear Phone, I am sorry to read about the experience you had with your mother, but I appreciate you sharing how you've made it work with your children. The phone does indeed work both ways, and as a tool of communication, it can help bridge the gap between what's expected and what's actually happening.
And in world news, climate change delivering hits to Europe's economy. Frankfurt, for anyone in Europe who still thought climate change was a problem for future generations, this summer's sweltering heat waves have brought home the reality that its costly and life-altering economic impacts appear to have arrived. Record heat and droughts this summer, which scientists say are exacerbated by global warming, have wreaked havoc in power production, shipping, and public health systems, while this wildfire season is on track to be Europe's biggest ever. Together, the hit to the region's economy can already be measured in the hundreds of billions of euros, economists and academics estimate. But they warn this is just the beginning, as costs are set to rise faster than the temperatures. Climate is changing more rapidly in Europe than on any other continent, and the damage is stretching public finances, setting off wild swings in inflation, redrawing the tourism map, and forcing the bloc to rethink how power is produced and how goods are transported. What makes 2026 particularly worrying from an economic perspective is that there are multiple episodes of extreme events, said University of Mannheim economist Shirish Usman. Take heat waves, droughts, wildfires. These events are taking place at the same time and mostly in the same regions, compounding their impact. Temperatures hit records in June and July, and the economic damage will likely exceed all previous marks, say the economists. Traffic on the Rhine and the Danube rivers, key cargo arteries, is severely limited because of low water levels. More than a half dozen nuclear generators have shut or curtailed production due to cooling difficulties. Agricultural yield estimates have been cut, with crops harvested late, such as maize and sunflower, suffering a 6 to 7% loss already in July. Heat curtails human productivity and has already claimed tens of thousands of lives, with Germany alone reporting more than 10,000 heat-related deaths. Meanwhile, the costs of the emergency response, like fighting fires or curtailing power use, further stretches budgets. Ing estimates that the halt of traffic on the Rhine alone will lower the GDP of Germany, the world's third largest economy, by 0.3 percentage points this year, while Hungary's MBH Bank sees a 0.1 percentage point GDP hit for every week the country's largest nuclear generator is kept offline. Allianz, the German insurer, estimates the 2-week June heat wave alone will cut the GDP of Europe by 0.3 percentage points, and climate change will shave 5 to 7% off growth by 2030 for the most exposed economies, and that's Spain, France, and Italy. The total bill for this year will be much larger, said Hazem, an economist in Allianz. This figure doesn't account for the fires, droughts, and different flood events. Given that the Eurozone is expected to grow just 1% this year, the hit is sizable. Yet, Usman says the full extent of the economic damage will only be felt several years down the line. You'd expect the damage to be largest in the year an extreme event happens and then to fade, but we find the opposite. The economic impact grows over the following years because the extreme weather set off a chain of slow economic consequences. And in that article, they talked about maize, and we would say corn. Actually, maize and corn are exactly the same thing, but Canadians and Americans say corn, and apparently Europeans and others say maize.
And we say butter, and they say butter.
Butter.
Okay, and you've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for Tuesday, August 11th. We read from the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and rebroadcast at 4 p.m. For more information, call 716-821-5555. Your readers today have been
Lori and
Lita. Thanks for listening. Take care as always. Keep smiling.
and have a great rest of your day.
If you or people you know shop at any of the Dash's supermarkets, please save Dash's register tapes for radio reading. Our agency receives $2 for every $100 in Dash's register tapes. Radio reading has raised thousands of dollars so far. Anyone can drop off their Dash's tapes to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, between William and Clinton Streets. Or Dash's tapes can be mailed to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, New York, 14227. Any questions on Dash's tapes for radio reading? Call us at 716-821-5555, and thanks for caring. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability